From a freak wave hammering a Royal New Zealand warship to an incredible video of a Norwegian rescue vessel caught in the middle of a Force 12 storm, here are 5 monster waves you wouldn't believe if not filmed. The North Sea is a 220,000 square mile body of water between the UK and Norway. Below the surface are rich oil deposits harvested by companies from Norway, the UK, and other surrounding countries. However, one Norwegian oil rig met the full power of an angry ocean when monstrous waves crashed against its windows.
Å, i helvete. Se her, da. Å, helvete. Å, jeg har det på film. Jeg har det på film. Å, faen, altså. Å, fy faen.
The first wave merely crashes against the rig's window. The second, however, is so big that it swells up and over the window before crashing on the other side. Norwegian researchers say that waves in the North Sea can get as tall as 14 to 15 meters, or almost 50 feet. So what causes waves to get this big? The answer is quite simple: wind and friction. As the wind blows against the current, it transfers energy through friction. As it blows longer and faster, it creates more friction, thus creating giant waves. How fast does the wind have to blow to send 50-foot waves crashing into the side of a Norwegian oil rig? Pretty damn fast, to say the least. The HMSNZS Otago is a 279-foot Royal New Zealand Navy warship built in the mid-2000s. Delays and setbacks pushed the project to 2010 before it was finally welcomed into the New Zealand naval family. The vessel's primary goal is to navigate the icy waters of the Antarctic Ocean. However, while out on a mission in 2015, the Otago faced an unforeseen enemy. Also known as the Southern Ocean, the Antarctic Ocean is known for its harsh conditions and giant waves. In December of 2015, the crew on board the Otago came up against those famous waves. While navigating a rough Arctic storm, a 65-foot monster loomed in the distance, leaving them with little choice but to face it head-on.
Behind it, didn't it?
That's God. Oh shit. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of scared then.
That was so good.
The gun just got fucked up.
The crew saw the wave coming and braced themselves for imminent impact. Although the 65-footer would not be enough to topple the naval ship, the impact was still enough to set off the alarms. A profanity-laced reaction tells the whole story as the crew juggles an array of emotions. The man behind the camera is Alex Croucher. He told Vice that Southern Ocean storms are some of the most brutal forces in nature. And we're sure Alex and the rest of the crew were happy to be inside when the wave struck. Hopefully, someone turned off those annoying alarms. Like hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, and volcanoes, experts can measure storms on the open sea using a scientific table. Known as the Beaufort scale, meteorologists measure wind speed on the open ocean and relay those readings to ships and other vessels. Boats know to stay back until the storm clears if it's too dangerous. However, if you're a Norwegian rescue boat, there's no turning back. You have a job to do. While traversing the North Sea on a rescue mission, a Norwegian rescue boat came face to face with storm force 12 winds, aka hurricane force winds blowing at over 70 miles per hour. Due to the sea foam and water that gets sprayed into the air, those on board this ship saw little more than the massive waves which pounded their ship.
Oh shit. Shit.
With each wave they struck, it almost sounded like a bomb going off. The first wave reaches as high as the cabin windows, while the subsequent waves simply crest over the bow. At the end of the video, the ship stares down the barrel of one final nightmare. This wave hits with such power that it forces our cameraman to take cover as loose items go flying around the cabin. If you're ever out on the open ocean and hear some radio chatter about Storm Force 12, do yourself a favor. Turn around and get out of there. Most caught-on-camera footage involving giant waves and large ships usually comes from the ship's perspective. Perhaps that angle does a disservice to the sheer size and real danger of these colossal waves. If the bow of that boat dips too deep below the surface, the weight of the water could pull it down to Davy Jones's locker. The date was February 13th of 2011. What was supposed to be a calm day of commercial fishing quickly turned into a nightmare for two separate crews. One crew on board the Santa Mar fishing vessel crashed up and down through 50-foot waves. Meanwhile, the crew on the Grampian Avenger took out their cameras and began filming, ultimately capturing this terrifying video. The Santa Mar bounces up and down like a roller coaster as it rides the waves. Occasionally, it disappears behind one of the 50-footers, only to reappear as it crests over the top. Thankfully, the Santa Mar is driving bow first into these waves. If they were attacking from the side, we might be talking about a far scarier and deadlier story. The waves we see here were likely created by a violent storm. Don't confuse large waves like these with tsunamis or tidal waves, as they're two different things. Tsunamis are caused by earthquakes, and tidal waves have to do with the moon's gravity and the changing tides. The crew on board the Avenger gave new meaning to different perspectives. While they were undoubtedly scared for their fishing friends, witnessing 50-foot marvels of nature must have been pretty exciting. We tend to picture tall, curling beasts about to crash down upon a vulnerable ship when we think of monster waves. While those waves certainly exist, you can't underestimate the calm-looking ones. Waves don't have to crash down on you to ruin your day at sea. They just have to make it over the bow. And if they do, you better hope you're riding on a German warship. That was the reality for this crew off the coast of West Africa as they piloted a German warship called the Fregatte Köln. While the ocean looks calm to the untrained eye, the waves they are facing are actually massive. Though the swell itself is only half the battle. You have to consider the 40-foot nosedive their boat takes into them. On the day this was filmed, the sea was rather angry off the coast of West Africa. 40-foot waves rocked the German warship. Yet these two guys were brave or dumb enough to stand outside. Most of the time, we see this kind of footage from the safety of the cockpit. Apparently, these guys wanted some thrills. You can just tell how big these waves are as they send foamy water towards the back of the ship, drenching our German onlookers from head to toe. But what kind of waves are we looking at here? Now, it doesn't seem like there's a storm overhead, so they might be dealing with a rogue wave. These waves still baffle scientists today, as it's hard to pinpoint where and how they form. What makes them so dangerous is their size and unpredictability. They're bigger than they appear, and you may not recognize one coming until it's too late. Thankfully, our German sailors were wise enough to stand on the back of the ship, though they were lucky enough to see the danger on the horizon. Sometimes, size is the only thing that matters. When navigating Storm Force 12 waves, the bigger the boat, the safer you are. Still, never underestimate the power of the sea, even if you're on some of the biggest commercial ships in the world. Chemical tankers are an essential cog in the global supply chain. They transport mass quantities of chemicals back and forth across the ocean and encounter their fair share of rough waves. Sometimes, those chemical tankers have to navigate dangerous, stormy waters, often coming face to face with monster waves like the one in this next video from May of 2009. Massive 50-foot waves crashed down on the chemical tanker as it bobbed up and down in the Pacific Ocean. At one point, a wave approaches from the side that looks almost twice as big as the boat itself. The tanker then dives bow first into another 50-footer that swallows the front of the vessel whole. Pull back for a moment and consider how big these waves are compared to the size of the ship. Chemical tankers can get over 420 feet long and have a 35,000 deadweight tonnage capacity, which is basically how much cargo a ship can carry. Thankfully, nobody was dumb enough to stand outside as the tanker crashed through the waves. At least one of them was smart enough to keep the camera rolling. Well, that about wraps things up for today. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more just like it, then be sure to click the link on screen now. With that, thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one.